Hi again, and welcome to my next video lesson. Today I'm going to be talking about some more differences between English and Russian. In Russian there are some words which can be used in many different contexts, but this isn't the case in English. We have an extremely wide vocabulary. Often they only have very small differences in meaning, but sometimes making a mistake with these words can completely change the meaning of what you want to say. I'm going to discuss 3 examples where the Russian language uses only one word or one pair of words, whilst the English language has 2 or more different possible translations. Now, all of these examples are very common words in both English and Russian, so it's a good idea to learn the differences carefully to avoid making mistakes. So, the first example, пожалуйста. In Russian, this word has 2 meanings, but in English, we need to use 2 different words to express this. Here's a common situation. You're ordering food in a restaurant, so you ask the waiter, "Could I have the margarita pizza, please?" In this case, the translation of пожалуйста is please. Now let's imagine 10 minutes later the waiter brings your pizza to the table. You say thank you, and he says you're welcome. In this case, the translation of пожалуйста is you're welcome. So, to review. In Russian, we use пожалуйста in 2 different ways. But in English, we must decide whether we need to use please or you're welcome. The next example is место. In Russian, this word has lots of meanings, but unfortunately in English, we have to use different words for each situation. Let's consider 3 different contexts where Russian language would use the word место. 1. I had to teach my lesson outside because there were no free rooms in the school. 2. On a bus. Excuse me, is this seat free? Number 3. My favourite place is the park. It's very relaxing there. So we can see that each example has a very different meaning, but in Russian, all the phrases can use the word место. So, to review. So in English, the word место can mean room, seat, or place. Now, let's look at a pair of words which were very difficult for me when I was studying Russian. Учить and учиться. Now in Russian, учиться has 2 meanings, and although учить only has 1 meaning, it is very different to учиться. First, 2 examples where Russian would use учиться. 1. I study French and Russian at university. 2. I learned how to knit a scarf when I was a child. So we can see that there is a difference in these contexts. One is serious academic work, and the other is an afternoon with your grandmother. Now let's consider the use of учить. My grandmother taught me how to knit a scarf when I was a child. So now you can see why you have to be careful, because this has the opposite meaning to учиться. I am a teacher, and I teach English. You are my students and you learn English. You can see the difference. So it's best not to confuse these. So, to review. So we can see that учиться can mean to learn or to study, whereas учить must mean to teach. Finally, I'd like to talk about a mistake I heard very often when I was living in Moscow. Let's imagine that it's time for exams at school. What's the difference between сдавать экзамен, сдать экзамен, and не сдать экзамен? Well, let's look at some examples in English. 1. I took 3 exams last year, and this year I have to take another 5. It's so stressful. 2. My grade was 80%, so I passed the exam. My parents are very happy. 3. Unfortunately, you failed your exam, so you need to retake it next month. 4. I was unwell, so I didn't take the exam on Monday. I'll go back on Friday and take it then. So what's the difference? Well, to take an exam is the action. We don't know about any results. To pass an exam means to do well, to get a good result. To fail an exam means that the result was very bad. But be careful. I didn't take the exam means that nothing happened. There was no exam and no result. I didn't pass the exam means that you failed. It means that the exam was bad and your result was bad. So, to review. So we can see that zdawać egzamin means to take an exam, zdać egzamin means to pass an exam, and nie zdać egzamin means to fail an exam. That's everything for today. I hope you all learned something new, but even if you didn't, I hope that this was a good revision lesson. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.